Oh, I'm live. Great. Caught me by surprise then, that live starting. Um, when I press go live. Right, I'm just going to let people come on board for a minute because I know some people said they were going to be joining me live, which is great. Today we're going to be doing, oh, hi, Polly. Today we're going to be doing a full moon ritual because tonight is a really powerful full moon. It's the last moon of the year and it's the last moon of the decade. And the numerology of 2019 was all about channeling us, asking us nicely, in effect, forcing us to deal with the stuff that we didn't want to deal with, to look at our old behaviors, our old patterns, toxic relationships. And it was really kind of the energies at each time, at the different portals and everything were kind of going, you might want to address this, you might want to address this, you really need to address this. And it was just pushing us and pushing us and pushing us so that we felt more and more pent up, more and more the need to release and let go. And really at now, all that has kind of culminated with the full moon. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Faye Semple and I am the spiritual geomancer to female entrepreneurs, leaders and change makers. And I help women understand our deep and varied connection to the cosmos. We connect to it on many levels. And one of the things that has been troubling me, shall I say, in a lot of the stuff that we see online about manifestation, it is that it lacks a depth that is missing because it fails to acknowledge the fact that the entire creation of reality is not just down to us. It is also down to other factors as well. And we are not 100% in control of what's happening in the universe. There are bigger cycles that we are caught up with. But there are cycles within cycles. And for us to release, to make the most of ourselves, to understand how our energy works and how the energy of the cosmos works, one of the easiest ways to step into that is through working with the moon. Now, the moon is something we're all familiar with. We're brought up with it, the man in the moon. We see it in the sky. We know that it's there. And we know that it has these regular cycles. So the lunar cycle is one of the shortest cycles that we experience, apart from day and night, obviously. But that belongs to a wider yearly cycle. But the lunar cycle is something that's really important and it has a strong effect on us physiologically in terms of our body chemistry, our brain chemistry. The tides of fluid within our own body are affected by the moon, the same as the moon affects the tides in seas, lakes and rivers. They all have tides and so do we, that affect us. So understanding how energy ebbs and flows with the moon is really one of the first steps to stepping into that awareness. Now, as I say, I'm someone that sees people's auras, energies, chakras, etc. And I know, I can tell you how the moon affects you. I can see how the light photons change the light photons that you emit. Now, we are not just physical beings. We are interdimensional beings that exist on many ways. It's just our consciousness and our limited conscious mind perceives ourselves to be in the here and now because of mental filters and blocks that we create, so that we're not overloaded. We don't subject ourselves to sensory overload to make living within bearable bounds, basically. Because if we were aware of everything, we'd just go and we couldn't cope with it all. So as a race, we have evolved to limit, if you like, what we perceive. But that means then we've become stuck in seeing a past, present and future as in linear when they're not. They actually all exist in a paradigm together. And we have lost a real deep connection to the universe, to cosmos, to conscious forces that can actually help us in our manifestation, can help us in our life. We're not the only creators of our reality. We're not responsible for creating trees in the world out there. They're elemental and what they call more than human realms of consciousness to do that. And they are concerned with the conditions of matter. I'll get back to the moon in a minute. Conditions of matter. And once we start opening up our awareness and shutting down that monkey mind and starting to work in sync and rhythm with the universe, then it's much easier for us to communicate with those other realms and for them to communicate with us. Because imagine those other realms of human consciousness and you were on a bus together and they're sat there, they're in this deep tranquil place and they're looking out the window and they'd like to have a conversation with you. And you're sat in the seat next to them going, jabba, 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 haven't done my shopping, blah, blah, blah. Here's a picture of your children, my grandchildren, blah, 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 blah. And they sat there going, I could impart upon you some secrets of the universe that would make your life a whole lot easier if you just shut up. And it's a bit like that. We need to shut down that monkey mind to enable them to get in. And one of the ways of us learning to shut our mind down, to feel our rhythms, to understand how we work, is this beautiful body in the sky called our moon, the goddess of the moon. She embodies feminine energy. She is both light and dark, as women have a lightness and a darkness. Now, our society embraces the lightness of women. It embraces almost like the faux feminine of women, but it doesn't like the darkness. And there's huge problems in society about women's bodies, what they look like, about menstruation, we're dirty, all those kind of things. Our sexuality, we're not allowed to express it properly, otherwise we're sluts. And it's turned against us. And the moon is a way of actually tapping into that energy and enabling you to bring it into your life. So we're all familiar with the moon, aren't we? It comes up at night, we see it, we know that it's full, sometimes it isn't, it seems to move around a lot, it's got a really, we never quite know where it's going to be from one night to the next, and the moon is actually fascinating in its orbit, but we're not going to go into that now. Tonight is the full moon, the last full moon of the year, is the last full moon of the decade. And as I say, 2019 was all about channeling us into narrow and narrower channels to force us to address all the stuff that we don't want to take into 2020. The astrology of 2020 and the numerology of 2020 is all about manifesting in 3D, in real life, our dreams, manifesting our desired life. And to manifest our desired life, I said we have to let go of all the rubbish that we don't want to take. So the full moon. The full moon is almost like considered the end phase of the moon. So we go from a new moon right up to full moon, and the new moon and the full moon, if you like, are what they call lunation periods. They're particular points that mark. Anyway, but of course the full moon is not the end of a phase, is it? Because it just gradually waxes again into the new moon when we can't see it, because the Earth is here. Wrong hand. So the Earth is here, and the moon is here, and the sun is here. So it's the other side of the moon that's lit up. We can't see. So the moon, because it's all illuminated on the other side, there is a black moon in the sky. We just can't see it. And that's the new moon. That's the absence of the moon. And the moon will gradually then start to be lit again on the right-hand side. And it's called a waxing moon as it comes around the half moon. And then it goes into a gibbous moon, which becomes the full moon. I love a gibbous moon. I love the word gibbous. It's like pregnant with expectation. I always, when I was pregnant, I described myself as gibbous. I was very well rounded, and something was about to happen. And the gibbous moon comes into the full moon like that, and the full moon then is a culmination period. So the energy of the full moon, it's all about building and building and building to this event. It's about creating pressure. As I said, it's about asking or forcing us to deal with our issues. It's about peaking and the realization, if you like, that if we don't deal with this now, it'll only come round again. So it's better to take advantage of that energy and let the stuff go that we don't want. It sort of really is all about letting it go. Let it go, like Frozen. Oh, Frozen 2's out at the moment. Brilliant film, by the way. Go and watch it. Anyway, so it's about letting go of lower energies. It really is now time, because of going into 2020 and it being a real high year of manifestation. The full moon is all about letting go of lower energies that have become habits in our lives. And that can be things like worry, blame, victimhood, getting stressed out, not taking responsibility for our lives. For those of you who know a little bit about my story, you'll know that I was in a highly abusive marriage for 12 years, which I left 6 years ago. And hopefully soon, my divorce is about to be finalised, and I'll be having a big party. Because it's been extremely stressful getting rid of an abusive partner. And anybody who's, I'll digress again, but anybody who's trying to divorce an abusive partner will know how difficult it is to actually get a divorce and child custody arrangements, and nightmare. Anyway, so what I started doing was using the full moon as my forgiveness time, as my ritual, because it incorporates a habit, because the moon becomes full every month. Whether I like it or not, it's going to be there. So it's like a clockwork mechanism. The moon is great that you can build in your intentions, your forgiveness and release, your intentions with the new moon, forgiveness, release with the full, intentions with the new moon. And you can do that throughout the year, and you can schedule that into your diary. Because if we don't schedule these kind of internal work in, then it's the first thing that slips, isn't it, when we get stressed? When we're trying to build a business or create, the first thing that gets slips is self-care. When we go into this habit, I've got to do more, I've got to do more, I've got to do more to attract more clients to make the business work. And then we come from a place of need. And when we come from a place of need and desperation, actually what we get is more need and more desperation. We don't manifest the clients, we don't manifest the sales. It doesn't happen like that. So the moon is a good way of reining yourself in all the time and noticing what you're doing. And I actually keep a moon diary, which looks at what my intentions set for the last new moon, how far I've got in manifesting, what habits am I still hanging on to. And it also enables you, when you really know your stuff about the moon, about where the moon is in your rising sign, what housing. So for Cancer, for instance, there'll be certain months that will be all about money, certain months will be all about relationship. They won't be the same months for Capricorn, they won't be the same months for Taurus. So it's about learning about your moon and your houses, and you can see what's coming up in the year ahead for you. So therefore, you know when you're going to hit a rough patch in your business or your life, you're prepared for it. You go, right, next month, the buttons that are going to be pushed are, and you can work on that in advance. And when it's happening to you, you can understand why it's happening to you. And you can go, right, this is happening to me because it's pushing these buttons, because the moon is affecting that energy, which is allowing me to feel like this. And I always think of it as allowing, because then it's given me the opportunity to address things that I might not otherwise have been aware of. And that's another tick in the box of things, you know, negative thoughts, poor emotions, bad habits, that I can go, right, that's I think I've dealt with that. We're always work in progress, aren't we? Let's face it, sometimes happens after the back thing. God, how well am I doing? Some sanctimonious twit. And then it inevitably comes and kicks me in the arse about a month later. I think actually I didn't do that quite so well. So yeah, it does keep us in check. So the full moon is a real time of culmination. It's been about this pressure building, a bit like a boiler or a spot, it's waiting to be popped. It's like, you know, you've got all this nastiness sat in there, get it out. So it's about looking at how we're behaving out there and the habits and the toxic thoughts, but it's also then inevitably about doing the inner work, the inner mindset, the inner emotions that are enabling us to have those poor behaviors, bad habits, toxic relationships. So it really is about shifting those mental and energetic blocks. It's about healing, it's about shedding our past. Now, if we allow the past to constantly colour our present, if we go around in life saying, oh, if I do that, there's a risk, because when I tried this last time, X happened. Oh, Y happened, which means I feel like this. We're constantly living in the past, where our whole physical being and the light photons in our energy fields and our chakras are emitting fear. And they're emitting this trauma or these upsets, these wrongdoings. Your whole being is stuck in that energy field, in your aura, in your chakras, and in your physical body. And if you're trapping that in your physical body, inevitably that will develop into illness, because it gets trapped in the DNA, it gets trapped on a cellular memory level. So removing stuff from your energy field is really, really important. It's really important to dig deep and properly let go, not go through the motions, not write out, oh, I forgive so-and-so, but not really mean it. It's about really digging deep into those internal stuff that can sometimes be scary, can be uncomfortable, particularly when it comes to victimhood. For me, it took me a long time to forgive my ex-partner, because I had to learn my place in that victimhood. I had to accept my own role in allowing myself to become a victim. I had to forgive myself for the patterns I had learned in childhood that had enabled me to run into an abusive relationship. The hardest part for me wasn't actually forgiving my ex-partner, because he is an extremely damaged individual that was born pure and equal like the rest of us, but his own family had corrupted him. His actions of his own parents, particularly his own father, had corrupted him. So I had to see him as a damaged individual that was just playing that out against me. The hardest part for me was actually forgiving myself for exposing my children to that abuse. That is something, if I'm brutally honest, you can see me going now, I am still having to work on, because I know they chose their karmic path. I know they chose me as their mother, which I'm so grateful for, flattered by, because I have the most amazing children. But it still hurts me that I didn't have the equipment in place as a mother to prevent them from being exposed to that abuse. So one of the monthly rituals that I go through is forgiveness for myself, to say they're fine, they're happy, they're actually really strong children with incredibly strong personal boundaries. They're not aloof or anything like that. They've got good peer groups, they're well liked, they're well loved, they're very active in society. But there's still that pain in me as a mother. That's your mothering instinct, isn't it? That'll rip somebody's eyeballs out if they approach your children. But I didn't kind of behave in that way, that I allowed my own fear to prevent me from protecting them. So that's one of the things. So the full moon, as I say, is about shedding the past, and it's about not letting that past to constantly colour our reality. So when the moon shines her brightest, those light photons coming from the moon through space hit our energy field. And I'm someone, I say, can see auras and chakras, and I see what happens when those moon light photons hit our energy field, and it is beautiful, but it is quite a field of balance. So the light photons light up our energy field, but again, they expose our darkest parts. They expose the absence of light in our energy field. They expose our shadows. And as I say, we're not just physical beings, we're interdimensional beings, and we hold an awful lot of information in our auras and our chakras. So the full moon is about finding balance. It's finding that balance between work and play, between constantly giving and allowing ourselves to receive, between overspending and choosing to save, particularly at this time of year. So it's about finding balance. So one of the ways that we can address that light and dark pull, holding on to resentment, wanting our desires, wanting to manifest on new levels, is to practice forgiveness and letting go at the full moon. Now, why do we practice that? Because we need to increase our ability to manifest and do magic in our world, real practical magic. I'm not talking about, airy fairy, I'll stare at a candle and hope it'll all happen. Manifesting magic occurs by how we think and feel interacting with light photons in the universe, and those light photons correspond back and they act accordingly, and that helps manifest matter. The interesting thing that a lot of this manifestation stuff doesn't talk about is the interdimensional non-physical beings that exist in that space that are concerned with the manifestation of matter. And philosophically, they're called the more than human realms of consciousness. And they are the nature spirits, elementals, guides, and everything else that create the planet and the universe that we exist in. They are masters of manifestation. And once you get used to living in the cycles of the universe, as I say, it makes it much easier to talk to these masters of manifestation and to get them on board with what you're on. Traditionally, they are concerned with physical manifestation of trees, rocks, air, plants, planets, blah, 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 whatever makes our natural universe. But in essence, they're also concerned with the manifestation of our life now. They exist in the modern world. We create online businesses, we build houses, we create roads, we do all sorts of things. They're also concerned with the manifestation of those things. And they work on many levels. So the sylphs of the air, for instance, aren't just concerned with air, they're also concerned with light photons, which means they're also concerned with communication, which means they can help you communicate and deliver the message within your business. There are many ways that they will work, and they are quite happy to work with you if you are a soul-centered, heart-driven person coming from honest integrity and you're looking to be a service to help others and to up-level the consciousness of mankind. They are more than happy to step in, and they are dying actually to be engaged. I've spoken about this before, but I won't go into it in depth. There are schisms in society at the moment about the divine feminine. So the way women are treated is unequal. We've lost the respect for women in society generally. We're trying to get it back, and that's great. There are inroads. But we're still very much in a patriarchal society which disrespects women. Then there's been the disrespect of that, of then seeing the divine nature in the environment. We don't see divinity in the environment. We have seen the earth as a resource there for our plundering, which has meant we've lost the respect for the divinity of the divine feminine, the natural world. Knock-on effect of that is that we have completely lost sight of nature elementals and consciousnesses and the realm of spirit in nature. That has been drawn out of religion when science and religion split. Now, what that means is when I see people, because I see these spirits blundering around, I see people ripping up landscapes and building houses, and I see these bereft nature spirits stood there, absolutely distraught at what we're doing. The pain sometimes is absolutely incredible. And then we stick up this house and wonder why we're ill in it and wonder why everything goes wrong. And it's like, we did not tell the land what we were doing. We did not tell that tree we were going to fell it. Now, these are practices that were inherent in society until fairly recently, and they are still inherent in some societies. You know, there are still places in Poland where you can't move the troll rock. There are still places in Ireland where you can't move certain rocks. You mustn't build roads on certain places. You've got to go around certain bushes. We inherently know that there are sacred places in the landscape and that these are places that do not belong to us. And we can engage with these nature spirits, as I say, and it's easy to engage with them when we get in tune with ourselves, when we stop our monkey mind from chattering, and when we don't turn up with a busload of baggage with us about the actual shit that we've put ourselves through our own life, through our own poor decision making and lack of real deep thought about our life. We're not brought up to think about our lives, really, are we? We're just brought to get on with it. Oh, just get on with it. And then we model the behaviors of people around us because that's all we can do. And yet, how many of them are perfectly happy without their own emotional wounds, their own mental baggage? How many of them are hugely successful? I bet if you looked around most of your friends and family, you wouldn't be surrounded by multimillionaires who are working through and living a life, an abundant life. You've probably got toxic friends, toxic family, you know, and we are brought up to model their behavior. So it's inevitable then that we're almost doomed to fail. That's the human condition, until we wake up one day and go, enough. I've had just enough. I wasn't born for this. I was born for so much more. You know, I can feel the greatness in me, yet here I am sat on a checkout getting drunk on a Friday night. You know, that's not how we imagined our life to be, was it? So tapping into the moon, as I say, is one of the easiest ways to do that. So the full moon is all about to letting go and increasing our manifesting magic. And to realize and manifest our dreams, we need to release and let go of negative emotions, wrongdoings. That's wrongdoings perpetrated to us and by us, because we have all done it. It's about self-forgiveness. It's about letting go of fears. It's about letting go of upsets, letting go of arguments, letting go of traumas, and letting go of disappointments. And we've all had those, and we've all been through terrible arguments. We've all felt extremely let down. We've all had awful disappointments. That's part of life. But how we react to them and how we deal with them, and then how we move forward without taking them with us, like a whole raft of suitcases when we're going on holiday, there's baggage that we need to drag around with us every step we take. That is entirely our decision. Do you want to drag it around with you for the rest of your life, or do you want to let it go? So, and I know forgiveness of other people isn't easy, and I know this can be hard. I say I've experienced it myself with having to forgive my abusive ex-partner. It took me quite a long time to do that, I have to say, because particularly when I first left, how raw I was and how emotionally upset I was, both the plethora of abuse I had experienced, the coercive control that unfortunately became a crime in the UK a year after I left him, such is life. But the coercive control, the financial abuse, the emotional abuse, the mental abuse, the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, it was all there prevalent in my marriage. And it took me a long while to forgive him. And it has to come when you realise you've gone into personal development, that you realise, yeah, I have had damage perpetrated against me, but I have allowed that to happen because I didn't have the right toolkit. But someone who perpetrates that level of damage is extremely damaged themselves. And he lacked the awareness to see the damage, so he just perpetuated that behaviour rather than looking at himself and going, actually, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to perpetuate the abuse that I myself suffered as a child. Instead, he didn't have that awareness. He's not there yet. So, you know, all I can do is think, God, I wouldn't want to be in that tortured soul that he is in. So all I can do is send love and forgiveness. That's just, it's his lot. He's got to live with it. So the moon is really great because it allows us to have this consistent monthly practice, because we get a new moon, we get a full moon, we go back to the new moon, we get a full moon. It's great. It's something you can put in your diary, as I say. So we get better at it each time. Each time we go through this ritual, which I'm going to go through with shortly because you've been very patient. You could get better and better, and you go more in depth. And forgiveness, I don't think happens in one shot. Like I said, I think we chip away at the layers until gradually we get there. So working on this, when working on forgiveness, it's really, as I say, it's important to remember that everything happens for us, not to us. Now, as I said, my own abusive marriage, I believe for me, because of how I was brought up, was a big lesson in learning to trust myself, because I hadn't listened to my gut when I'd gone into this relationship. I thought, oh, I'm too sensitive. That can't be right, you know, and I should have listened to my gut. I was also brought up with really low self-esteem and self-worth through the extended family. And there was mental health issues within that extended family. And I was brought up in a really tense household where the silences of dread were awful, about not being able to speak. And then when you did speak, you were snapped at. So my self-worth was really low. And because of having to preempt and give to this, got to do that this person does, got to do, preempt, what mood are they going to be in? Then I ended up with really poor personal boundaries. It was all about giving and not expecting anything in return. So my own abusive marriage taught me to believe in who I am and that what I do gives value. He was constantly humiliating and discrediting of my ability to see energies and worked in this. It's like, oh yeah, it's and yet now that's what I do. So this lunation practice of working in the cycles with a full moon enabled me to release so much trauma, and it can do the same for you. It can release the trauma. So I released the trauma around the abuse that I suffered. I learned to forgive my ex, and I learned through this forgiveness and continual practice of release, affirmations, you know, goal setting, release, affirmation, goal setting. This monthly practice becomes in place that enabled me to help create the business that I have and the life that I have, that is free from negative, toxic people. It's free from drama. It's free from all sorts of things that I want it to be free from. Now, it doesn't mean that life doesn't go on with the ups and downs. It doesn't mean that life is a bed of roses. It's not that. But I now have a regular monthly practice that enables me to release the ship from last month, steady the ship again, see where I want to go, and off I go again. And then what happens? Release it again, steady the ship, see where I want to go, and off I go again. And that monthly cycle means that we've also got fairly quick reward mechanisms, if you like, because nowadays in life we like to do something, get instant gratification, don't we? You know, and I also work with the solar year as well. Don't get me wrong, the solar year is incredibly important. But the monthly one does give us fairly quick rewards if we get somewhere, and we like that in modern society. We don't want to wait for a year for something to happen. We've got long-term goals, but we want short-term rewards that help us get there. And that's all what the moon can do for us. So it's brilliant. So if we don't release the stuff, as I say, that's tied us to in the past, that leads to resentment and it leads to anger. And now those emotions are incredibly toxic. And why do you want to poison yourself? There's that saying, isn't it? I can't remember who said it now, that resentment is like drinking poison yourself and expecting the other person to die. You know, you don't poison yourself. So how do we forgive? Now, usually there's a lot of anger around forgiveness, and there can be helplessness and hopelessness as well. Oh my God, you know, I'm such a victim. And you could argue that anger is more productive because the helplessness and hopelessness often comes when we're paralyzed with fear, when we haven't stepped into any power and we feel we've got no control over the situation. It's all just happening to us. But actually we're allowing it to happen to us. And often the next stage of that is when anger surfaces. Now, anger surfaces the injustice that we can see at what's happening to us. But if we're brutally honest with ourselves and really dig deep, it's often anger at ourselves for our lack of boundaries, that we have allowed this to happen in our lives. So we have to remember that when we're in that place of anger or helplessness and hopelessness, those are low vibrational emotions. So when we're feeling anger, we will attract more anger and more toxic people. When we're feeling helpless, we will attract more situations that make us feel more hopeless and more helpless. And that's not really where we want to be. That we want to be in a place of high vibe, expectancy. Great things are going to happen. Not what if it all goes wrong. We should be asking ourselves, what if it all goes right? You know, positive questions, positive frame of mind. Positivity, like does attract like. Now, I am a fan of the law of attraction and law of manifestation. I think it lacks a little bit of depth for me because there are bigger cycles going on in the universe, which I'll talk about on another live. So, you know, we can't say that all rape victims have attracted rape. We can't say that all displaced people have attracted that war. It doesn't. There are bigger cycles to go into another time. So when it comes to forgiveness, as I say, some slight, some minor, aren't there? We can forgive and we can forget. We go, God, you're an idiot, but I can forgive it and I can forget it. Now, some things we can forgive, but we can never forget. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing. That means we're aware that that person or that situation was toxic and did us harm, and we need to keep an eye on it. And we need to make sure we don't go back there again. So forgetting it would be, if we forgot it, we probably might go down that route again. So forgive and forget is fine for minor things. Forgive, but remember, is okay for bigger things. It doesn't mean that when we forgive, that we're saying what they did was okay. What we're saying is it wasn't okay, but I've dealt with it and I'm able to move on. And you can leave them stuck in that negative place, that place of hurt, that place of fear that they're operating from. And you can now go, I'm not in that place of fear, and I'm not in that place of hurt. I'm in a place of greater awareness. So actually, you know, I'm the better person for it. And I wish you love, because you're stuck on the lower rung of the ladder kind of thing. But, you know, you can move off it for it. So forgiveness, the forgiveness ceremony. Now tonight, what I want you to do, where's my notes? What I want you to do, this is the night of the full moon. Now I always take a few minutes. I'm just going to get comfy. A numb buttock. Right, okay. So on the night of the full moon, it's much better, which is tonight, it's much better to do your forgiveness and releasing rituals before the full moon than after, because the energy is boiling up. Now, if you want to stay awake till 12 tonight, or wherever the full moon, wherever you are in the hemisphere, it'll be 12. It might be the 12th, might be the 13th in date, but 12 is where the full moon climax tonight reaches its culmination. Personally, I'm not going to stay up to 12 because I know very well I'll wake in the middle of the night, because the full moon at this time of year shines its glorious light into my bedroom and lights the whole place up, so it wakes up anyway. And then I stand for a minute bathing in that light. Or incidentally, if you've got any jewelry or crystals you want to cleanse, like these, the full moon is a really good time to leave them out in that light, because it cleanses and rebalances the energies. The light photons hit the crystals, consciousness, and yeah, anyway. So that's, if you don't think you want cleansing, or any old jewelry, for instance, that used to belong to somebody else that you've inherited and you feel it's still carrying their energy, like it might be a wedding ring that's come around the family, or jewelry that you've inherited. If you feel that perhaps it's carrying some negative emotion from other people, get that out in the moonlight as well. It's great for doing these things. So what you need to do is to learn how to forgive, and the forgiveness of the full moon is a great time to do it. So what you want to do is you want to take some quiet time to be alone if you can. And if you want to do this with children, that's great. I do it with my daughter. I've done it with my son. He's 9, nearly 20 now, so he's a bit more like, yeah, whatever. But he does believe it, but he's just not quite so participative. But my daughter, so you sit and you want to get yourself a nice comfortable position and take a few deep breaths and relax. Know that you're okay. Know that the universe has your back. Know that everything is working out as it should be, and you're learning the lessons as best you can. You are doing the best that you can. Most people are doing the best that they can with the tools and equipment, mentally and emotionally, that they have. Not everybody goes out to harm and manipulate other people, and even if they do, they're often doing it because they are so insecure in themselves they need to feel some element of control. It's not really about you, it's all about them. So take some time to relax, try and release any stress. I always light a candle to the moon, and I light a candle to I want a fire salamander, and I want the light photons. So I'm talking to the sylphs of the air for the light, as well as the consciousness of the moon herself. And I always light a candle and I welcome them in. So I welcome them into my home. I welcome in the spirit of my business. I welcome in the spirit of my home. And I welcome in all my guides and elementals. And I light a candle. And I say, I'm here now because I want to release and, you know, any support and guidance that you can give me. Now, if you can think of any thoughts or habits, ideas or upsets, emotions that you want to release. Now, it can be more than one. So you're going to need a pen and a piece of paper, and I want you to write down on a sheet of paper as much as you need to express it, to get it out. So if you're feeling anger, you know, you can really go for it. I feel anger because you can say it as well. Writing down affirmations is great, but actually vocalizing it is really good, because what happens is we hold that anger, that energy, that emotion, whatever it may be, in our body. We hold it on a cellular level. Now, when we say it, or when we write it down, which is good, but saying it actually for some things is particularly good. What we do is that energy is released in our writing, or it's released in sound. Now, that sounds mad until you think about, let me explain it this way. The sea, waves in the sea, we're trying to use sea power to capture energy, aren't we? Waves in the sea have an awful lot of energy in them from the water molecules knocking against each other. It creates all this energy. Now, when a wave, so there's a rock, when a wave hits a rock, we hear this roar, don't we, in the air? We hear this noise. Now, what actually is happening is the energy from the water hits the rock and is dispelled into the molecules of the air, the hydrogen, the oxygen, and those molecules all rattle together and make the sound of the wave hitting the rock. Now, when we want to express energy from our body, we hold it on a cellular level. So if we express it with our voice box, we're pushing that energy out into the air, which is why I always engage the support of sylphs, because I say to them, I'm going to be expressing some negative energy into the air. Would you please dispose of it in a safe and harmless manner? Would you get it out there into the universe and deal with it with no ill effect to other people? I don't want it knocking around. I don't want nature feeling it. I don't want anything feeling it. Can you neutralize it for me and let it go? And that's why I always incorporate nature spirits into my forgiveness, because normally then they will say yes. So you can start to work through the moon to talk with these levels of consciousness. So saying it for particular hurt, particularly around my own sexual abuse, for instance, primal screaming was really good for me. It was about going somewhere really quiet and screaming from my gut, from my womb, the pain and anger that I felt about the violation of my body, my womanhood. Screaming was a real release. So if anybody's going through that, actually I could recommend it. Try and go somewhere quiet. Try and go somewhere you're not going to be disturbed, because I've had some funny looks sat in my car screaming my head off. But get it out. Get it out. Don't let it ruin the rest of your life. Obviously, if you need counselling, get that as well. But screaming, primal screaming is really important. And actually, if you go on some woman retreats, primal screaming is some of the things that they do. And it's, when you're doing a whole group of women, it's incredibly liberating. But yeah, so primal screaming is good if you want to try and have a go at that. But write it down. If you're not that courageous yet, write it down, everything that you want to write down in depth, as much as you need to get rid of it, to express it, to feel like you've done as much as you can do. Don't forget, the full moon will be coming around another 4 weeks. You've got another chance to get rid of it again. But right now, do what you can do tonight, and don't think, oh, after I didn't go enough yet. I should have, I ought to have done. Forget those. No shoulds, no oughts. You do what you can do tonight. Pat yourself on the back. That is enough. You don't owe yourself any more than what you can do at the time. So long as you're doing as much as you can do and not shirking, you're doing enough. Now you can also think not just of those emotions, think of the people. Go right back if you need to. Go right back to childhood. Go right back to when you were, given that one of those awful looks that looked like, you were something that somebody had trod in, unsavory. Think about teachers that belittled you, childhood bullies, maybe it was a bully at work, maybe it's something happened when you went to get to college, maybe it was an ex-boyfriend who made you feel awful. You know, go back, think about those people and list their names out, and then go through that forgiveness process. Talk about, remember that they are just the process of their own upbringing, their own parents, their own mental framework, and most of what they were doing was about them trying to feel good about themselves and not about trying to make you feel bad. It's about their lack of control in their own life. So go back and remember that what happened to you was a lesson. We're all born with these soul contracts. We're born in karmic groups, we're born in family groups, and we have a soul contract that says, I need to come back to this planet and I have an incarnation, and these are the lessons I want to address. Now, some of those people have got to provide those lessons. They've got to come in with you and provide the circumstances that allow that lesson to play out. Now, it might be, you know, there's no saying how that lesson is going to plan out, but if you don't address it the first time, it will keep coming back. So, for instance, I had family that was all about poor boundaries and disrespecting women. I then went into a relationships as I grew up where that slightly played out. The relationship with my son's father was quite abusive and playing out like that, but I stepped out of that relationship, but I didn't learn the lessons properly, and I then stepped into a highly abusive relationship. So each time it came back more and more and more and harder, till I really had to, I was going to say man up then, woman up and deal with it and go, do you know, enough. So think about those people and think about, actually, you kind of have a contract with them. They're only giving you what you decided you needed before you came in, and forgive them for the act, because actually they've given you a lesson. They give you an opportunity for growth. There's always a blessing in everything. It's about finding those blessings. So forgive them. I know this might take practice. I say that's why the fact that the moon comes around every month is great, because at the moment you might feel no love towards them. You might feel like, I need them to apologize. I need them to say sorry. But they're not going to say sorry, and they're not going to apologize if they don't see that they've done anything wrong. So you wanting them to see that abuse or that trauma as how it affected you is just not going to happen. You have to, at some point in time, learn to accept that, and you will get there. This is why monthly regular practices are useful. So again, write their names down, write as much as you need to, write how much they've hurt you, how much it accepts you. And then, as I say, I want you to close your eyes and visualize each person in turn and send them love and send them forgiveness if you're able to. Just try it, because you'll be doing it again in another month's time. So just give it a whirl and see how you go. And then just, you know, say, I forgive you. And there's a wonderful book called The Gentle Art of, is it The Gentle Art of Blessing or The Gentle Art of Forgiveness? I think it's The Gentle Art of Blessing. I'll have to find it. But that's a really good way. It's lots of forgiveness and blessing stuff in there that will help you. But there's a good one that I'm going to get to in a minute that I'll read out for you. So it's about forgiving and releasing. So when you've gone through all that forgiveness mode and when you've released them, now one of the things that I like to say, and this, I mean, I'll confess, this comes from Yasmin Boland's work, and it's a quote actually that she's taken from The Forgiveness Formula by Catherine Ponder, which if you've ever read that, that's a really good book. So once you've gone through all those people and you're sending them love, one of the things that you can say is, under the glorious full moon, I forgive everything, everyone, every experience, every memory of the past or present that needs forgiveness. I forgive positively everyone. I also forgive myself of past mistakes. The universe is love, and I am forgiven and governed by love alone. Love is now adjusting my life. Realizing this, I abide in peace. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful text that helps us to practice. So again, that's in Yasmin Boland's book. She's done some wonderful book on moonology, which is all about how the moon affects us. So yeah, forgiveness. So forgiveness is great. Now, once you've done your forgiveness bits of paper, as I say, I always light a candle, because the next step is all those negative emotions that you wrote down, all those people that have caused you drama, disappointment, hurt, and upset. You're going to take those pieces of paper, and in a safe place, obviously, you are going to burn them. Now, my daughter and I have a lovely little ritual at this point in time where we fold all these bits of papers and we make these paper lilies, origami lilies, because we like to burn it with beauty, because then it sort of goes up with this beautiful beauty within it that says, I really do forgive you, and I forgive everything that you've done, and I'm free of it. I'm now free. So you want to burn them in a safe place. Now, the thing about forgiveness is that when you've forgiven, what you've done is you've released yourself of all this anger and all this trauma and all this negative emotions, and you've let it go. So you will feel lighter and you will feel great, but you've also created a void, a vacuum. Now, what you don't want to do is refill that with more anger and more resentment. You know, you've got to let it bubble to the surface, but it's much better quickly to fill it with something else. And this is where gratitude comes in. Gratitude is really, really important. So gratitude is your higher vibration. It's the higher light frequency. It changes our aura, it changes our chakra, it changes what we emit. So it changes how the universe responds to us. You'll feel happier. You'll have a higher vibration. You'll feel lighter and clearer. And as a result of that, you will be better able to manifest in just 2 weeks' time when the new moon comes around. So the new moon ceremony in 2 weeks' time we'll be about setting your goals and your affirmations. And we'll be doing that. So again, gratitude is key. And again, with your pen and your paper, it's quite simple. I want you to think of 3 people or 3 things or 3 achievements or places or anything that you are grateful for. And if you really can't think of anything at the moment, if you're in such a deep place thinking, oh, I've got nothing to be grateful for, you think, if you've got clothes on your back, if you've got clean water coming out of a tap, if you've got a roof over your head, if you've got heat and light, if you've got, like I say, family who care for you, you have much to be grateful for. Life isn't about stuff, it's about our experiences. And from there, and if you've got, you know, all your faculties, you know, you have everything you need to make your life a better place. So be grateful, really, really grateful. So write out a list of the things that you're grateful for. Mine are incredibly simple every day. I'm grateful for getting up in a safe house. I'm grateful for the love of my children. I'm grateful I can come down and make myself a cup of tea because I'm a tea addict. So, you know, I'm extremely grateful for the simple things. It is the simple things that make life. I'm grateful when I hear my daughter giggling. I'm grateful to see the powerful young man that my son has become, how secure he is in himself, despite the real trauma he went through as a child. You know, I'm grateful for so much. Yeah, I'm grateful that I've got a TV. I'm grateful that I've got a house as well. Obviously, of course I am. But you know, it's about being grateful for the real basic things, because I think when I fled my abusive marriage, I fled with my 2 children, several bags of belongings, and my old car. And I used to work from home, so I lost my job, I lost my home, I lost my income overnight. You know, we had nowhere to wash, nowhere to buy food. I had no money. When you lose a roof over your head, food, clean water, you realize how much you've got to be grateful for in the very basic living that you've got. There is so much to be grateful for all the time. Once you've written out your gratitude list, I want you to burn those things as well. And it's about, you just want to let go at this time. Like, you want to be grateful for everything you had. It doesn't mean you want to stay the same, but you want to be really grateful for things that you got. It's okay to want more. It's okay to want to develop. It's okay to want to grow. It's okay to want to step into your gifts. It's okay to want to deliver your message. But be fundamentally grateful for what you have right here, right now. There is no tomorrow yet. It doesn't exist. There's only right here, right now. There is no matter manifested sort of out in the future. It happens second by second by second. The world sort of doesn't exist tomorrow in the great past, present, and future paradigm. There is only now. So be grateful for the now. And when you feel ready, one of the things I like to finish off is I like to say, I know that I am blessed, and I live my life within that knowing. And again, that's from Yasmin Boland, but I love that. I know that I am blessed, and I live my life within that knowing. And it means, you know, I feel that the world is out there for me, and I can take so much and I can create so much. And then I give thanks I personally give thanks to the elementals, the guides, anything else that I've called in. And then finally, I blow out my candle and my ceremony is over. So if anybody wants to do that tonight, I'd love to hear how you get on. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about the moon, I'll be talking more about the moon and what releasing and how to get ready for the new moon tomorrow in my group Divine Feminine CEOs. And I'll put a link below at the end of the live. And I'm particularly excited about a challenge that I'm going to be running over the Christmas period while you've all got some time off. So from December the 26th, for 5 days, I will be running a tactical timing free 5-day challenge. And this challenge will all be about planning 2020 in line with influences from nature and the cosmos. So the moon and the solar year, and incorporating the help of nature spirits and elementals to help you understand what's happening in the cosmos, what's affecting you, how you're going to be affected, so how you can make the most of your planning for 2020 so you won't be broadsided by anything that you're not expecting. So I hope that you've all enjoyed that. I'll be running this as a watch party tonight, and I seem to have a few problems with my windows again. There we go. Because I haven't kept up with all the comments. Right, okay. Okay, so I hope anybody who's stayed with me has enjoyed it. You've been very patient because I've been a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, because I can talk for Britain, in case you haven't noticed. Yeah, so I will be doing my full moon ceremony tonight. So I will think of you all doing yours. And if you've got any feedback that you want to give, I would love to hear from you. The moon and the moon's consciousness, because the moon is conscious herself, is an incredibly important body. So give thanks to her. She embodies the divine feminine that we embody as well. She has her light and her dark. And at the moment, she is at her brightest and her most powerful. So take advantage of it and enjoy your full moon ceremony. And I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye.